All right, I think we have recording in progress, though it didn't say that. This is Paris Dunning. We're meeting up for East Side Connect format virtually to talk about what's happening on the East Side and especially to focus on what connections would help your business or program now, what's on top for you that you could use help with, and what insight do you have that could help others. That's the way we're going to position this work. And I'm going to drop those three general questions into the chat. Our topic for today is disruptions, and especially this very provocative title, I thought, Disruption Proofing Your Business. As if we could disruption proof our businesses. Um, the goal is to talk a little bit about what we've learned in the midst of disruption and how we can respond, what our organizations have learned trying to respond, and what we can do now. So that's where we are with this conversation. We've got some great folks that are on the call right now, but the businesses that RSVP is interested in this are not on the call at the moment. So the recording that we do right now, I'll work to share with everyone who is interested in this and all of the 47 folks that I invited to the meeting who are Arcade and East 7th businesses experiencing construction disruption. So there's some things to talk about around construction for sure is going to be part of our focus. But let's do around the Zoom and get some introductions. Briefly, your name, the organization that you're with, and a favorite fall activity now that it's fall in Minnesota. I'll start and model. I'm Paris Dunning. I'm the director of the East Side Area Business Association. Um, my favorite fall activity is actually raking leaves because you can see progress actually getting made. That's my favorite fall activity. I'm going to pass it to Melissa. And Melissa, after you share, would you pass it to someone else on the Zoom?
Yeah. Hi, Paris. Hi, everyone. Melissa Gutierrez Nelson, program manager for the Promise Act with NDC. She, her. My favorite fall activity is I'm a baker, so I'm a pie baking. Is fall is pie baking season. I'm usually a cake baker, but fall is pie baking. So that's my favorite, and it's everyone else likes pies, so you're
Okay, so
welcome at places when you are a baker. So,
thank you, Melissa. So now, everyone, a required answer on the Zoom is what's your favorite pie? Okay, mine is pumpkin. Melissa, pass it off.
all right, I'm Andres. I'll pass it to you.
Thank you, Melissa. Good morning, everyone. My name is Andres Salinas. I am the lending director of the Latino Economic Development Center. My favorite activity of the fall, I think, is taking walks on the lakes and see all the leaves, with multiple colors. Also, I think making soups now that it's getting chilly, right? Having a little warm soup, especially in the afternoon, I think is something that I enjoy. And my favorite pie, pecan pie. Definitely.
Oh, awesome. So good. Okay, Andres, pass it.
Yes, Yolanda.
Oh, good morning. Let's see. I'm Yolanda Davis. I work with the ESABA. I do the outreach support. And let's see, my favorite fall activity. I like long sleeves, so it's a
Ooh.
chance to wear my sweaters, cardigans and sweaters, um, in the winter time. And I do like soups. I'm with Andreas. I like soups. And my favorite pie is blueberry.
Would you consider that a fall pie? I mean, I
I know
love
it's
blueberry in
not
the
a fall
summer.
pie, but I love blueberry and
So
they're usually
good.
smaller. They're usually smaller in the winter time.
Right
And
on.
so, yeah.
Thank you, Yolanda, for bringing in that burst of fruit for sure. And I think Tisha is the hand. Tisha?
That's me. Hi, everybody. My name is Tisha Bratcher. I work with ESNDC within Community and Economic Development. Um, my favorite fall activity is falling in love with Minnesota again. So I am trying one new thing, whether that be a hike in nature, visiting a museum or art gallery, I kind of got pessimistic about cold. So I'm just trying to fall in love with our seasons again. So thank you for having me.
So good. Love it. Thank you. What great answers. I'm glad I asked that question because now I'm more inspired to get out there. Fall is tough as we transition. We get some of that new cold weather and it can be rough. I want to orient us to this topic and we'll dive right into it, you all. We have spent the last year getting ready for the construction season that just ended. The Arcade Street corridor was closed from March 31st to November 17th. And we talked to businesses a lot in the 2 years preceding that. And we heard a lot from uh, kind of from the general wisdom about how we should prepare for disruption. So, in general, these are the things that we heard. Uh, I'm going to put these in the chat just so we're kind of tracking the conversation all together. That businesses should get prepared. They should get ready for a slowdown in revenue. They should look at operations, staff, inventory, and their business plan. They should pivot, offer more to go, kind of like we saw during COVID. See if digital marketing could be something they could explore or some sort of alternative revenue or sales. What could help them just like change their business orientation, pivot, and then promote online presence, social media to communicate with customers, window clings, wayfinding. This is a lot of what the project brought to us, actually, were ideas like this, like let people know you're still open, run a construction deal, give 10% off during construction. Those were ideas that they had seen in previous kinds of projects. We also heard from folks, and many of us participated in this kind of thinking and talked to businesses about this kind of thing. When disruption was upon us and heavy and turned out to be very different than we thought it was going to be, we had some other conversations. Practitioners said businesses need to get more proactive. File an insurance claim. Does anyone have loss of revenue coverage? Figure out if your insurer can help you because that's why you have business insurance. Talk to your landlord and negotiate to work with them because it's going to be harder than we thought. This was in the midst of the construction. We started shifting a little bit. The message shifted a little bit. And then in the whole process, ESABA and you all and businesses did a bunch of other things and considered a bunch of other things too. Get together, don't act alone, figure out how you can do things as a total corridor. So promotions, mitigation fund grants, loans, property tax relief, and rent moratorium are all ideas that we have explored to different degrees. Promotions, grants, and loans are things we could take control of, and so we've worked to get those kinds of things together. Property tax relief are things we asked our electeds about, and there has been a great silence around that kind of action or that kind of thought that we need to pick up again. And also rent moratorium, there was also a lot of agitation when that idea it kind of came to the fore a couple weeks ago. But ultimately a difficult thing to kind of take action around and get to happen. It's out of our control. So pushing people to do it takes effort. So, right. I love Tisha just posted in the chat. I'm going to read what she says. MnDOT and cities should always have a contingency fund to do re-grand opening or funding aside to businesses. It's confusing that we can shut whole streets down and not have a fund for the businesses within economic development or commercial real estate corridors. This is a great complaint. And Tisha, right, like this was the argument that we made to the state and to the city since this was a state-funded project. We've also made that argument to philanthropy. Like, you want to do economic development, you want to help and support. These are the ways that we feel like you really could. Let's put a mitigation fund together and at least put some money on the street to help people, or a resiliency fund to help people reemerge. These are all ideas that we have been working on. So here's the context for the question now. And this is where I'd like for our conversation to go. And we can do some dialogue back and forth here that I hope will be productive and constructive and also like what's out there and available now. So love to do an around on what did your business or organization try in the response to these kinds of strategies. And then we'll do and that could also include a what do you wish you'd known? And that would be a first round. And then we'll work on what would help now. And what are you hearing and also, of course, what are we hearing from businesses now? What do we think would help them now? What do we think we wish we'd known to help them going forward? Do folks have some answers to what does your business or organization try? Or what do you wish you'd known?
Paris?
Yeah, Yolanda.
I know from talking to the businesses, they did talk to their landlords. And they did what you suggested and doing outreach and different things. However, I don't believe that MnDOT did the best job of communicating calendar wise what was going to happen. And so when monies did not come through in a timely manner that would have helped them, their landlords got agitated. And it was like, well, are you telling the truth or not?
Hmm.
And there begin to in the businesses that were thriving and then went to zero revenue and they were trying to get, like online things and doing orders like they did in COVID, there was not enough revenue coming in. And the businesses themselves were telling me, I understand, I get it. The landlords want to get paid. Excel Energy has been very aggressive, calling them hourly, harassing them. And I've been there. And one business told me they had to take money from their rent that they had always been able to pay and pay some on their Excel Energy because they were threatening them to turn them off and treating them like they were indigent. And they said that they were trying to talk to all these parties and be proactive, and it was like a tidal wave. How do
Hmm.
you hold back a tidal wave?
Hmm.
And order of operations, they were observing the construction, they were like, the order of operations seemed off. And when they looked at what MnDOT had given them, it was like if there were changes, they weren't made aware of the changes. And it just seemed to be bad business all around
Yeah.
and a total disregard for like they wanted them to close. And they said they felt very unwanted, like, St. Paul had just basically mooned them.
Uh,
Like, I was like, oh, that's bad. and and they didn't know who to go to, who to talk to at that point because the doors were closing or being slammed in their faces, and there were promises made that never came to fruition.
right. Or
And
haven't
then
yet.
and then there's the thing about fairness. In education, fairness is based on need. But obviously, when your road is shut down and the side roads are shut down and you can't use the alleys, what do you do? Keto, how do they go online and do an online business for a car repair?
Right. Some of these strategies do not resonate with a particular kind of business for sure. Yolanda, I want to thank you so much for jumping in with the what you're hearing from businesses for sure. And some of what I just dropped in the chat, I want to see if other people had responses to or in that category of what your business or organization tried when these were the conditions that were coming on. And one of the things that you mentioned there, Yolanda, what do we do about fairness? What do we do about fairness when 120 businesses are affected? 45 of them have applied for a mitigation fund. 25 of them are ones that we're working with actively, and a handful of them are ones that we're hearing from daily. So, like, how do we respond in that's a kind of tidal wave for all of us, right?
And then what is it? Three of the businesses just closed. They just said, I'm not dealing with this.
Right. So Family Foods being one of those just shut during the construction. I actually haven't seen if they're reopened again.
And Bebe closed during
Bebe,
construction because she talked to Soul and they were like, yeah, where are you? And she's like, mm-mm,
not even going to open.
no, not
So
even gonna open.
So these are the kinds of things that we've been working with. Other responses to what your business or organization tried and or what do you wish you'd known?
I can speak. It's Tisha.
Hey, Tisha,
Gonna
go ahead.
hop off. Hi. Well, at ESNDC, if you do not or do know, we are kind of the conduit between deed for the state money for the mitigation funds disbursement and working alongside all of our multiple hubs. What I have found is that, I came in on the later tail after joining, but the amount awarded, like 247, was, and we were trying to fight for like 2 million or so. Um, really just covered, and I sent in our first batch to deed, and it only covered, again, 45, 46 businesses. So what about the other businesses that either applied or didn't know about it or did close? How are we kind of handling that? And just like you said, Samina Beauty, she owns like a beauty and hair salon. She's been a legacy, I mean, over 5+ years business there. I called her and she's like, I had to shut down. I had to find a new location. And it's taking away such displacement work, and we're within anti-displacement work. So um, it's nice to see the $5,000 going to businesses, but we did have two businesses that received half of the funds, like our tobacco shop, vape shop, smoke shops were priority two. Um, yeah, it's one of constantly loans. Everyone's like, give them a low barrier loan or ECF loan, and I'm like, if they already are 5 months behind on their rent, giving them a loan that they have to start paying back within 60 days is not, I don't believe, the answer. It just puts them in another place, another to owe money. And so we're just kind of navigating that right now. And then on top of that, just to be honest, with ETAP services, so like our TA, technical assistance services, kind of coming to a close for this calendar year, trying to wrap up projects, now more businesses are like, well, now that it's open, we need more support, whether that's like marketing support, outreach support, branding toolkit, logo, website design. And if we don't have the funding for it, what's next? So that's kind of coincides with everything. Thank you.
Thanks, Tisha. Let's talk about loans for a second because Andres is a good conduit right there. And then let's come back to this TA question. Orlando would like to have a parade. That's not a bad idea. The street is beautiful for it, like it's nice and smooth. It'd be a great kind of parade route. So let's come to Andres for a second. Andres, you want to talk a little bit about LEDC's response and the loan product that's come out and respond a little bit to what Tisha says. Is a loan really a good answer for every business? Talk about that.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you for the invitation and the opportunity, Parish. Yeah, definitely. I'm happy to jump in. Yes, we were aware of the situation with the street being closed, and in that regard, I just wanted to share with everyone that ESABA, LEDC, and Root Philanthropic start working together to figure it out how we can come up with some um, support to our businesses impacted by this. So that's why Root Philanthropic Foundation has provided 500,000 PIR or loan so we can start putting some low interest and flexible terms loans to support businesses who were impacted by these construction. The idea is to provide some working capital, understanding that now that the street is reopened, in this case for arcade, some of the businesses that they wanna, try to retake the energy, synergy and the dynamic that they had prior the road being closed, but at least they can have some cash in hand to do so. But at the same time, we were trying to come out with other resources that are not necessarily loans. So the community can do an analysis or an evaluation in terms of what is the best way for them to go through this process. Because obviously, not everyone might qualify for a loan, right? Or not everyone is interested in acquiring more debt because probably they already own some money to the landlords or some other, expenses that they has been incurring because the closure on the road. So the idea of LEDC working together with all of you guys is basically being another source of tools to support our community. And in this case, I'm talking about other programs like LEDC is doing. For example, so in terms of the loan product that we are having at this time, it is up to $50,000, 5% fixed interest rate. The idea it can be 2 or 5 years. We are offering 6 months of interest-only payments, so we can help the business to keep the cash and start getting some traction on operations. And then as we go on the road, at least gonna have 6 months to go through the process and pay only interest while they are, generating some revenue. Obviously, the idea is we want to try to make it as flexible as possible and as accessible as possible. That means the requirements that we have are very limited. Just they have to be businesses who has been or are located on PAYN or arcade as part of the requirements. The minimum credit score that we are looking or are willing to work with is 580, which is very low. Obviously, what we are trying to do, what we go through the process is to make sure uh, applicants will be enrolled in a program to start working on the credit report repair aspect as well. So in that way, LEDC is adding some support to the business to say, okay, business owner, yeah, we know you're struggling. We know you have some options, multiple elements that are preventing you for getting a regular loan or access to financing to support your business. Let's work together while we are giving you some release as your business start taking traction again. At the same time, we are LEDC is offering a grant, and this is related to the Main Street Economic Revitalization Program. LEDC got $1.4 million from the state through direct appropriation, and the idea is to provide up to 30% to financing for a project related to building improvements. And businesses are because of Payne, Arcade, and 7th Street. So basically, we can match up to 30% of the total amount of the investment. On some of the requirements is that the other sources that are coming to support this project have to be different than federal or other state programs. I think that's the main requirements that we have, and that the businesses are located in Arcade and Payne and 7th Street. And lastly, and I think something that I want to mention and as well, looking to support businesses recently start doing collaborations with Electric Council and other organizations who are focused on green initiative through a program. This is related to a collaboration that we are doing directly with Minnesota Chamber of Commerce and their Department of Smart Energy, which basically we are helping businesses, connecting businesses with an expert in these areas, and together helping them to do an evaluation about this business, how they use their facilities and trying to figure it out is there is a way that they can experience some savings through maybe replacing the old lights at their buildings, looking into how they can improve the use of energy, whether it's heat, whether it's AC, whether it's through equipment that are kind of old and need some update. So this is a way for businesses with at no cost to get access to this type of assistant. And so this consultant will be helping to do an evaluation to the facilities. And the idea is that after they do an assessment, they will be presenting you multiple options, whether if there is a grant, whether it is a rebate, or in some cases, if the business owner needs to put some investment into the process. But with the idea of as a long term, they can experience some savings in their utility bills or other elements aspects. Who on how is as simple as it is. Just if you are interested, you can let us know. We can connect you with the person who is will in charge of the assessment. We can work together on setting an appointment so the expert can go to your business and do the inspections, and we can help you go through the process as well.
So good. So Andres, right, this is the other side. Like you can increase revenue or you can decrease costs. I mean, this is,
Yes, so that's what I was saying. Not
yeah,
everyone will be interested on a loan, but get
right.
what? There are other resources that we are offering as part of the tools that they can take advantage of to
Let me
support their
let me
businesses.
ask you this question, and Yolanda has a question for you in the chat, Andres. Tisha's right on, I think, and I'm glad that she's hearing some folks that are moving into this like resilience on the ground kind of mindset. Now that we're opening up, we need more support. If people get in touch with you with the loan, but the loan's not the right product, does LEDC is LEDC mobilizing some capacity to do some of these other things with your technical assistance providers, branding toolkit, website design, help you figure out how to take it to the next level now that the corridor is open?
Yes, definitely. As we have a loan program, we have a business development team as well, who are ready to provide some support and guidance.
Okay, so Tisha, like this is a part of this coordinated how are we doing TA together question. LEDC, ESNDC, NDC, and some other partners too, ADA and AEDS, all have expressed an interest in helping us kind of begin getting around businesses who might want some of this kind of support. And we've got a little bit of money to help move some TA that is relevant in the construction area. So let's talk a little bit more about that. Yolanda asks, Andres, how long does it take to process a business application for a loan? Oh, good. Screen sharing.
So yes, here's a little bit of the information about the loan product. So it will we have simplified our underwriting process for this particular loan product, and as fast as the business owner can provide the information, we are trying to do the financial analysis and provide. Usually, we are hoping that once we have the information in terms of finances and all the elements that the underwriter team needs to do the assessment, I think we can provide a response in a week or less. That's our goal, right? So businesses can have access to these resources as soon as possible. That's our goal.
Okay, thanks, Andres. Do you have folks that are already in the funnel for this that are
Oh,
coming from our
yes,
project?
yes,
How many folks are you
yes.
working with about?
Right now, we have two of the businesses on Arcade that are working with us on a loan application.
Okay. One of the other ones that wanted to come to this meeting today was very interested in that loan. So I want to make sure that he gets connected. What's the best way for, like, I'm hearing from someone who's interested in what kinds of resources are out there. How do I connect them? And you mentioned like there's a priority on Payne Arcade and 7th Street, but is it possible that we could work with other businesses on the east side that have been affected by disruption?
Definitely, yes. We
Okay.
are open to work with anyone.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
And
That's the answer I wanted to hear, of course. All right, so what's the best way for us to get folks connected?
I'm just facilitating some back course over here so everybody can go directly to the link and start the application. That's the simple way to connect with us. But definitely, if you are interested on the Small Business Relief Fund, feel free to contact me. My phone number and my email is here, is Andres at ledc.org or prestamos at ledc.org. You can also, if you are interested in the main economic revitalization program, you contact my coworker Tony Phelps. His phone number is 952-297-6928. And if you wanna go through the smart energy assessment, my coworker Danny is the best person to talk
Got
to.
it.
His phone number is 612-230-7918.
Okay, and Andres, if you drop the link for the Small Business Relief Fund in the chat, I'd love to pick it up and we'll put it on ESABA's webpage where we're trying to direct people to resources. So that would be great.
Yes, definitely.
Actually,
We have, yeah, the link. Yeah, I can send you the link, and also it's in our website. So I'm gonna send you that and how people can connect directly through our
okay.
website.
And I am kind of thinking about all three of these resources, just putting them in front of people in a couple different places, a couple different ways. So that's great. Thanks, Andres. If there's a way that we're getting to some of these resources that you want to put forward, I'd love to link to it. Um, all right. Super good. Good questions. And this question we want to come to, but I want to ask Melissa to talk just a little bit about the Promise Act. One of the things that we talked about all through this process, like at the very beginning, like we don't think we're going to actually, for a long time, we didn't think we were going to get any money for mitigation. I mean, it just looked like this was a total non-starter. MnDOT never does this. I just want everyone to be aware, like they said from the very beginning, we never do this. You are not getting any money for businesses. Just forget about it because we never do it. We always get asked and we always say no. So that and the city says like, we don't have any money. Like you got to go to the state. It's a state project. So we fought this battle and we just felt like we were not going to make any progress on it. And then we made a little bit of progress. And it's unfortunate that that money is not on the street yet, but we have been working our side of that process as fast as possible since that announcement for the money to get out in July. And Deed is not a very fast entity to work with. And NDC, of course, has had that experience working with Promise Act money. Um, over the last couple of years. But one of the things that people said to us in the state legislature conversation is, isn't there a Promise Act for you guys? Like East Side, like, why don't you get your businesses to apply for that and get some money that way? So we have always had this twin strategy going to try to connect people to the Promise Act. And the second round being open right now, it seems to me like and disruption causes confusion. So people are trying, I think, and we have heard that people have tried, and when they hit a couple of roadblocks that seemed insurmountable, they just threw up their hands. So we need to go back to people and be able to direct them in a good way if they're eligible for the Promise Act and it might be something that they could get. I don't want, and I think NDC has good systems for this. Like if they're actually not eligible, then they don't need to, they don't need to waste anybody's time, including their own. So Melissa, will you guide us just a little bit in how to respond to some people who say, I've tried, I've hit the blocks. I don't think that's an option for me, for us to help them sort out if they're having, how to proceed on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So as Paris said, the Promise Act opened its round two on September 23rd. As we sit here today, we will be open for new applications for round two until December 14th. So right now is the time to apply, encourage businesses to apply. In round one, we did get, there was 198 businesses just in St. Paul that got money. $3.3 million. So there is money that we're distributing and money to be had. So again, keep encouraging those businesses to apply. I can walk you through a few different places on the website to kind of direct folks, but I wanted to share a few things just kind of off the front of reminding people that it isn't an emergency grant program. So that's one of the kind of reset things that we want businesses to know. It is a lengthy process. And it's a lengthy process because a lot of it depends on the responsiveness and the readiness of the applicant, right? If they have all of their paperwork in order, if they have their taxes, if they have everything, it can go a little bit faster. If they don't, it is going to either go slower or they might not be eligible for this opportunity. Our team is super available to help along the way. We have right now, this will change a little as the weather gets colder and it's winter, but right now we have 4 in-person opportunities every single week for them to walk in and get support. And we have opportunities for them to request support online. So we're here to help if people do have questions. I want to, is it okay if I share my screen?
Yes, please.
Okay, so there's a few places share that you can kind of direct people towards. And, as Paris said, knowing if you're eligible or not is kind of that first step. So we remind people to go to a couple different places where they can check their eligibility. So I'm going to go here. They can check their geographic eligibility. And they can check kind of their programmatic eligibility. So we lay out their programmatic eligibilities here. The only major change I would say since round 1 is if you are a home-based business, you need to have taken the tax deduction for home-based businesses in order to apply. So that is a pretty major change from round 1. And the easiest way for people to kind of check their eligibility, there's kind of 2 ways. If they don't want to apply and they just kind of want to see on their own, how ready am I, how eligible I am, we encourage, there's this eligibility and readiness quiz. So they can kind of self-screen, and it takes them through these questions of, am I actually eligible? So did I receive a Promise Act grant in round 1? No. If they did, they aren't eligible. Are they registered if they're not a sole proprietor? So I won't bring us through the whole quiz, but it takes them through all of the eligibility parameters. And if at the end they're not eligible, they'll get an answer that says, sorry, you're not eligible because of this reason. If they are eligible, it takes them through a second set of questions that says, how ready are you? And it basically walks them through the documentation that they will need in order to apply for the grant. And so if they are eligible and they get through that part and they get through the readiness part at the end, they'll get a little score that says you're 70% ready to apply. So that's kind of like that first step where people can go through and check themselves how ready or how eligible I am. The other thing that I would kind of bring your attention to is you can actually see all of the application questions online here, so they can kind of see if they do apply, what are the questions they're going to be asked. And on our website too, you can change the language. If you can see in this top right-hand side, you can change the language from English to Somali to Spanish to Oromo to Hmong or to 4 languages to Spanish, Somali, Hmong, English, or Oromo. And then the other thing that I want to bring you towards is, where is our documentation? I'm not finding it from there, but there is a place. There's my checklist. Sorry, should be right here. Oh, here it is. Application checklist. It's right there. This is kind of the documentation checklist where people can see what am I going to be asked for to apply. So you can kind of see here everything, all the documentation that is going to be requested as part of their Promise Act grant.
So Melissa, I want to just ask you, sorry, to pivot for just a second, because for sake of time, a lot of people have been through this process and they got to the point where what they're telling us is, I got declined, or they, like I got all the way through and they say, it didn't work. I'm not eligible for the grant, that kind of thing.
Yes.
What's a good question for us to ask when we're hearing to see if people have gotten stuck and could be unstuck versus ineligible or declined for some reason that we should just be like, okay, well, the Promise Act isn't a good option for you. I think that's what we're trying to sort out on the ground
Yes,
because we're
absolutely.
asking everyone, or we should be, and Yolanda and I can get synced up on this. I hope LADC's synced up on this too, to be asking everybody if they've applied for the Promise Act and if they need any help applying.
Hmm.
So it's what do you need any help applying?
Absolutely.
So if people have questions about the status of their application, or we've got questions about why they aren't going to get that money, what's our best way to direct them?
Yeah, I guess if an applicant comes to you or if a business comes to you and said, I applied for the Promise Act grant and I didn't get through, my first question would be, did they apply in round one or round two? Because if
Gotcha.
they applied in round one and they didn't get through the process for whatever reason, um, it would be, I would encourage them to check their eligibility and apply again. Right. So just because they applied in round one and didn't get through does not mean that they cannot apply in round two, assuming that they are still eligible to try to get through in round two. Right. It's a different landscape. There's some different eligibility. I would encourage them to apply again if they're talking about round one. If they applied in round two and get in, it's always helpful to understand why did they get denied, right? If
Gotcha.
it's a kind of a binary, well, you make too much money, or you're just straight out of the eligibility area, there isn't much to be done there, right? But if it is a different reason, like maybe they made a mistake and they're saying, well, actually, I am in the eligibility area according to the map, and that those are conversations that we can have. So knowing the eligibility, the reason that they were denied is really helpful, and it should say in the communication that they receive um, why what their specific reason for ineligibility.
Got it.
And then I would say, if it's okay, if I'm going to share my screen one more time.
Yep.
The quickest way to get a hold of somebody, whether that's for you or for an applicant, is just reach out and complete this contact form. And I know that people really want like a person to contact, right? They feel like that's going to be faster if they're like, oh, just give me Melissa's phone number and Melissa's email address. That's actually not the case. If they email me, I'm not going to really be able to help them. We currently in the pipeline have over 1,000 applications, right? But we do have a TA team. And when somebody fills out a support request, they're going to get an answer they're going to get an initial response within hours.
Great.
And it's really important that they go through the system because we want to make sure nobody falls through the cracks. So we want to see that this applicant got responded to in this amount of time, and we talk to them 4 times, right? So if they're coming to one individual team member, it kind of comes out of the whole system and they're much more likely to get lost in the shuffle. So have them fill out this support form. Our team will be responding to them within hours, typically within less than 3 days. They can get completely closed, so they can get a full answer. And then our team can let them know, okay, we can either help you with this specific answer, or we have an in-person lab where you can come in and talk to somebody and like they can sit down and help you work through the specific issue. That's kind of the quickest way. There's
Great.
also a phone number in the footer of our website that they can call because we have a team, able to answer questions as well. So that's probably the quickest way for people to get answers. But again, encouraging people that if they applied in round one, again, if they applied in round one because they aren't eligible, likely, the eligibility other than for home-based businesses needing this extra tax deduction hasn't necessarily changed, except for, especially I will say, in the first round, you had to have been in business in 2021 even to apply. That has changed. So now they do not, in order to be, they have to have taxes from their most recent completed tax year, 2024. So if they were a business that was not in business in 2021 and applied and said, oh, you're not eligible, that now has changed. So let people know that they should apply again.
That's really helpful. I think that this is the main thing that we haven't had a clear answer on is go ahead and fill out the support form. Do that instantaneously, and you will get some response from the TA team from NDC. That's what we need to be asking people to do if we can't sort out with them exactly, because we can't sort out with them exactly
Right.
what the issue was. What we're hearing from them is, I tried that. and it doesn't look like I'm going to get that money. Okay, like filling out the support form if there's some question about that, and knowing some of the questions that we can ask, I think was really helpful, Melissa. That's really helpful. So I want, if you will, drop the support form. I'm going to
Absolutely.
create a news item that we can actually point to on ESABA's website that says, look, this is what we need you to be able to do around the Promise Act if we're getting this kind of question. Have you tried reaching out for support? Here's the support form. Let's fill that out and see if we can get some answers on whether or not you should reapply. Can
Yeah,
people
and
ask
if
that
they
kind of
do
question there
applicants,
too?
I'm sorry, just what was that, Paris?
Can people ask that kind of question on the support form too? Like,
Yes.
hey, I applied in the first round, I wasn't in business in 2021.
Yes.
Should I apply again? I mean, if they have a more random question than that, right? Like, or if we forget
Yes.
to address that. Okay, got it. Great.
And I'm dropping two more links in the chat as well. So the first one is the contact page if they just want to go straight to the people and ask questions. The second one is that eligibility quiz. If they
Got it.
want to see, am I eligible this round to get a quick answer? The third is a searchable applicant help center. So basically they can type in eligibility and all of the resources around eligibility will pop up. So they can do a little bit of kind of self-research as well on that page.
Great. Super good. Um, I think you referenced something that's super important, and we're going to transition here to the end. Thank you very much, everyone, for talking this through. One of the issues that I think we need to be thinking about is that we don't necessarily create programs that respond in emergencies. Um, that is not the way we have been designed to do our work. But emergencies are what we are experiencing. So, figuring out how we as practitioners work together to respond in emergencies is going to become skills that we need in order to serve our constituencies in the best ways that we can. The next emergency is happening on 7th Street. It's a planned emergency, and it will happen to 25 consumer-facing businesses that we can identify easily, and to all of the corollary businesses that are there on the street that aren't necessarily come in, that are the other professional businesses, the college and university that's sitting there, the churches, that everyone's going to get affected again on 7th Street coming up here in a minute. And we will have the same kind of alarm, if not new. We will be new in some ways. But I think we also just recognize the moment that we're in is not a moment where business as usual is really the order of the day. We are experiencing more tension, especially immigrant intimidation and attack, and we're going to be moving into a time when we actually, and I appreciate my colleagues on this call very much, where we need each other's support to figure out how we stay in the game to help people that are on our corridors trying to figure out how to navigate a storm that we can't judge as easily as we can with a construction update because there will be no update. Um, I'm not trying to be alarmist, but to understand the moment that we're in, I think we're going to be moving into more emergency and less planned programming. At least that will be a component of what we need to be doing and navigating together. And I appreciate my colleagues on this call who I'm getting to know through processes like this and have known some for a number of years so that we can build on the relationships to create the resiliency that our business community will really need. So thank you so much for being on today. Like I said, I will post and work on posting for the businesses that we've got that are really interested in this. This will be timely for, and hope that we can generate some more connections for everybody that will help their business. So the checkout question that I want to ask, and we'll go around the Zoom here and spend 5 minutes and go just a couple minutes over, is what next? What do you think would help in this situation next from what you've seen? What is it that you need to help your programs that you've put in the field really meet the need that you think they're designed to? What are the ways that we can help each other with that? So, what next do you need for your program or your business that would help it make the connections that we need to be as responsive as possible? Does anyone have an immediate answer to that? What next? What's the connection that you need to help that program?
I'm just
I
wanna
can
Oh,
go
good.
go
ahead,
ahead.
go ahead. Please, Melissa, go.
Oh, Paris, I'll just echo what you said about just talking to each other in collaboration. For us on Promise Act, for me, hearing from you all, you have ears to the ground, talking to businesses, what their needs are, what their struggles are, what their pain points are, and continuing to hear that so we can be as responsive as we can. I think that will really be helpful for us at Promise Act.
Thanks, Melissa. Andres?
Just to complement that now that you have said what other resources we can provide now that we are in a different environment, uh, is that LEDC work with an attorney who's specialized on immigration on association plan, which means businesses, who are willing or need to work on an association plan in case something happened to them. I think it is important. So we have the online training for that. We have a presentation, and there are some like kind of questionnaire that helps business owners to do an assessment internally about what they have in place in case, federal agents show through the doors and start asking questions. Or in some cases, what if one or of the owner is taken into custody, who should be taking, the reins on the business? So if they need those resources, please reach out to LEDC and we will be more than happy to provide those.
Andres, I have not talked to you about this, and it's good for us to just know that this is happening, that our community is preparing for this kind of thing, and thank you for mentioning that at the end of the call. Yolanda?
I went to the East Side Emerging meeting, and someone brought up, they talked about sanctuary space. But I remember when we did the crisis management workforce after the what was it? The riots that were happening,
Civil unrest? Yeah.
the civil unrest. I think we need to have a crisis sanctuary plan in place with how things are changing, as Andreas was expressing, that we need to develop a plan for the plan.
Yeah, got it. Well, let's you and I follow up about that, since ESABA could be a leader in beginning to talk about what's needed that we hear from our members, and including all of these folks that are members as well. NDC, LADC, ESNDC, all members of ESABA, all businesses that we care about who serve the East Side, alongside all of our consumer-facing businesses too. Thanks so much for the time. I think next for ESABA's work has got to be how we design and the coordinated effort. We've got a design process that's working on that involves all of the folks that were on this call, so that we can become more resilient. And I think these questions of what are the issues that we're really facing will be crucial for us as we design how do we coordinate? How do we work together more intentionally? All right, that's Eastside Connect for November 20th. Thanks for being here. Looking forward to more communication between this crew right here, and I hope you all have a fantastic day.
Bye, guys.